Look, CJ, I get it. I love the idea of acquiring a firm, but what happens when I buy that firm and the very next day, all the clients disappear? I'm the one left with the personal guarantee, with the debt obligations. I'm going to be the one looking at bankruptcy and my credit, and it just starts snowballing, right? But what if I told you that I've created 3 safeguards that you can implement that will get your client retention rate above 90%, dare I say above 95%. I'm personally averaging about a 97% client retention rate, and I'm going to show you somebody who's even higher than that. And as a thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, here's a picture of a really cute giraffe, geeked up on caffeine, staying late doing payroll runs on a Thursday night because payroll sucks. Hit a like or throw a comment or subscribe. That way the algorithm will throw the videos in front of you on your feed whenever I come up with a new one. Okay, so first of all, you're not crazy. You're a numbers person. I'm a numbers person. This is what numbers people do. We look at the worst case scenario and assess the risk. And if the water seems too hot, we're probably not getting in. So I want you to know I was afraid too. I was afraid of all the same things, the clients leaving, the mass exodus, me left holding the bag, all those different things. You're not crazy. These are very normal thoughts. And to be quite honest, acquiring a firm is a very serious thing. Like, you shouldn't take this lightly. There are very real risks. The default of the loan, of the clients leaving, of all the things. Like, you're gonna be signing a personal guarantee, what we call a PG, and you will have your personal financial neck on the line for this acquisition. It's a very serious thing. But on the flip side of that, the SBA is a very favorable and advantageous tool that we use and leverage off of to be able to go and acquire a firm for no money out of your own pocket, to be able to roll into the loan working capital that you can have cash on hand the day you close on the firm, so that you can help create marketing campaigns or add new staff members or whatever it is you want to do. This is a very advantageous tool. All we need to do is just make sure we set ourselves up correctly, and you're going to be just fine. But I get it. We can't help those negative thoughts of what if? What if it all fails and implodes on itself? Don't worry. I'm going to show you these safeguards that you can implement. But that still doesn't change the fact that we're going to inevitably think about the worst case scenarios. We're going to inevitably think about how it can all come tumbling down. But don't worry, I'm going to show you these 3 safeguards that are going to mitigate and put your mind at ease of a lot of the risk and the nightmares. And I'm going to go so far as to say that these 3 safeguards are absolutely critical. I don't even know that I would do a deal without these 3 safeguards in place. So basically, these are vital parts of a deal structure. And if you can't get all 3 of these parts, you better show me and justify why you're doing this deal, because right out the gate, I'm going to tell you, don't do it. So like I told you, right now, I'm at 97% average client retention rate, and that's across 5 different acquisitions at this point, about 2,500 clients or so. And I thought I was doing great. But then we had a community member, Brandon, who bought a firm. I think there was about 600 or 650 clients that he bought, and he's averaging a 100% client retention rate. Check this out.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, the clients haven't seemed to care. We haven't lost one client yet.
Yeah. So you're at 100% client retention?
100% client retention.
Holy.
The seller is still there, so they're still comfortable there. The team is still there. The service is just improving. So we haven't lost any clients. They're happy.
Yeah.
So So that's the only real roadblock around buying CPA firm as a non-CPA.
So as you can see, these 3 safeguards actually work. Like, I'm going to show you how to apply them literally and practically. So let's jump into it. So safeguard number 1 is that seller better be around for at least 1 tax season. Now, preferably they're going to be with you 2 tax seasons or maybe indefinitely. We have a couple of firm owners that have told us, hey, I'm here till the wheels fall off. You know, as long as I can keep my little part-time schedule, I'm good. But at least, at minimum, for 1 tax season, that owner has to be around. You got to understand there is a major transition that's about to happen. Those clients, nobody likes change. Every human is a creature of habit. And so if they can see that not only is the owner still around, as that seller is giving you their endorsement and giving you their blessing to the clients, that is worth its weight in gold. Those clients are going to feel so much better and trust you so much faster if that owner simply says, hey, that guy CJ, he knows what he's doing. You're in good hands. I'm still here. CJ's still here. You're completely fine. That is going to alleviate so much stress from the clients, so much anxiety and all of those different things. Remember, when you do an acquisition, at least the way I like to teach it, I want you to cause as little waves as possible as the new owner of this firm. Try as much as you can to keep things running exactly as they were before you owned it. By the way, if you want to know 5 different ways for you to acquire an accounting firm for no money out of your own pocket, comment 5 down below and I'll send you a full case study of 5 different ways that you can go and acquire a firm for no money out of your own pocket. So make sure that that owner is around at least for 12 months. If there's a seller, and hear me on this, if there's a seller who wants to just throw the keys at you and run the other way, you say, nope, I forbid you to buy a deal where that's the setup. You will lose. I have hard data from real people who have set up their deals incorrectly. They didn't come talk to me. They didn't come join me in my community. They didn't engage my buy-side advisory services. They lost 50% of the clients over about 12 months because they gave all that money and the seller disappeared to Cabo or wherever they went. You must set the expectation on day 1 that they will be around. Now, look, it doesn't have to be full-time. Maybe they're working, the way I set it up is they're working full-time, 40 hours max during tax season, and then outside of tax season, about 20 hours or so every single week. That is, I mean, most of these sellers are going to be a pig in mud if they can get that type of arrangement because they're probably used to getting, you know, working 70 hours during tax season per week and probably 40 to 50 hours outside of tax season. So if you come up with this proposal and this structure, there's a high likelihood that not only are they going to be excited about it, but they will also stick around with you for a very long time. And here's a little nugget, a little bonus nugget for you. If the seller of your firm is, let's say, 45 years old and they've created massive success and a massively successful firm, and they're like, hey, one of my clients wants me to become their CFO, so I'm going to be selling this and leaving, or I have this crazy cool other idea or some niche consulting that I'm doing and I just kind of want to be done with this. I'm not saying it's impossible to buy that deal. I'm not saying don't buy that deal. I think it deserves to be looked at, but I will say your risk of client attrition goes up because usually they're going to want to sell and what? Disappear, not be a part of the transition because they're going towards something else. The ideal seller that you would like to buy from is going to be that 60, 65 plus year old firm owner that's simply looking to retire and get a little more time with their family to travel and so on and so forth. That will allow for a seller to be around, stick around for for a year, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Now, the second safeguard that we implement when we're acquiring a firm is a meaningful seller note. First of all, let's clear this up. You will have a seller note. It is industry standard in the M&A world, and more particularly in the accounting world. It is industry standard for there to be a seller note. Do not let a broker tell you otherwise. Every deal I have seen has had a seller note. Now, are there people that pay 100% at closing? Absolutely. But we've already talked about the aftermath of how those deals look. So don't be bashful about saying, I'm going to need a seller note. It's still a buyer's market. However, you do need a meaningful seller note. 5% is not a meaningful seller note. 10% is not a meaningful seller note. I would like you to be around 20, 25, 30% seller note. I can tell you that the average of deals right now that I'm all involved in, that I see, that I'm helping out, the average accounting firm acquisition looks somewhere between 20 and 30% seller financing. Usually it's about 5 years and 5%. Now, do we have members that are doing 50% seller financing? I'm actually helping out one member right now offer a 70% seller financing note. So look, the more you can get, if the numbers work, by all means do it. Seller notes signify to me that seller is willing to stand by their firm. They've built something good. They're willing to wait to get paid because they know that this thing will continue to be successful. That is why we want a seller note. Because to be quite honest with you, usually the cash flow is actually hurt or dinged by a seller note, because if we're using the SBA, that's a 10-year seller note. If I can repay 10% over 10 years, usually that's going to be more favorable than a 5-year 5% seller note. So truth be told, we're not even doing this for a benefit in the cash flow of the firm. We're doing this purely to know that seller has skin in the game and that they're willing to take this ride with us and to provide a smooth handoff over a period of time. Listen, I've done a lot of actually real estate investing over my career as well. I've probably done maybe 600 or 700 real estate transactions up to this date. I can tell you, when I was very new in the real estate game, I wanted to be the nice guy. I wanted to please everybody. And so one of my first handful of flips, we got to the closing table and the seller said, hey, I actually need 30 days post-close so that I can go make my new living arrangement and put my deposit down and all of that. Once I get the money, I'll have the ability to go do that. I was like, hey, that's awesome. I fully support you in that. I want to create a smooth transition for you. I wanted to please them, of course. And so in my naivety, I said, no problem. They got all their money the day we closed, and I just sat on my hands for 30 days and waited for them to get out. Well, lo and behold, 30 days came and 30 days went. They didn't leave. You fast forward that story, 6 months later, I was finally able to evict them. More money to the courts, okay? More money for the constable to come out, all those different things. And I learned very quickly that just because somebody says something doesn't mean that they're actually going to do it. And that's just the harsh reality of this world. However, I got wise. And I said, wait a minute, the next time this situation happened, I said, look, no problem. You need 30 days. Not an issue at all. I get it. However, I'm only going to give you 50% of your proceeds the day we close. The day you leave within those 30 days, when you just call me up, you say, hey, here's the keys. I'm ready to go. I will have a check in my hand for the remaining 50% of the proceeds. However, if you don't leave by those 30 days, you're going to start getting penalized and it's going to hurt. So lo and behold, guys, I never had anybody stay late again. And that same principle is the reason why we have seller notes, meaningful seller notes, to make sure that seller is incentivized. And the reason I have the word meaningful in there is because of safeguard number 3. Safeguard number 3 is a forgivable clause. Wait. What are you saying, CJ? You want me to forgive you? I don't forgive you, CJ. A forgivable clause essentially says that it's going to penalize that seller if revenue dips below a certain threshold. By the way, if you want to know 7 red flags that as you're looking through a deal, if any of these red flags come up, you need to run the other way. Comment 7 down below and I'll send that over to you. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm buying $1 million firm and it's making $1 million in revenue. My expectation is that over the next year, I should get at least $1 million in revenue. So what I'm going to embed in that seller note is going to be a clause that says, if revenue over the next 12 months dips below, let's say 90%, that seems to be an average standard threshold. If the $1 million in revenue drops below 90% of that, or $900,000, then I'm going to reduce your seller note dollar for everything below that. So let's say in year 1, revenue comes back at $700,000. That's $300,000 less than we thought. Well, that forgivable clause is in there and it'll trigger once the revenue dips below $900,000. So everything from $900,000 down to $700,000, that $200,000 drop is going to come straight out of the seller note. And now my seller note, I owe them way less than I did initially. That is the forgivable clause. And you can see how it's going to align the interests of you, and more importantly, the seller, to say, we all want a successful continuity and acquisition of this firm. We all want the ongoing success of the firm post-close. Now, I hope you understand why safeguard number 2 had the word meaningful in there. Because if we don't have a good chunk of a seller note, there's nothing in the forgivable clause that we can go penalize them with. You have to have a seller note that we can penalize them if they decide to just disappear on us and clients start dropping off and the revenue starts dropping off. Now, I want to share with you a personal experience on how these 3 safeguards creates a 97% client retention rate, or like Brandon over here, a 100% client retention rate. I got to go steal his secret sauce, I guess. But this is a real story and example, and I hope it shows you why we need to set up the safeguards this way. One of the firms that we bought, after we acquired it, the letters went out that there were new owners. And one of the clients that had been a long-standing client, tax and bookkeeping and payroll client, told the old owner, his name is David, told David, hey, look, we're going to be looking for somebody else. The new guy's nice, but I'm just going to go look for somebody else. And I said, hey, that's unfortunate, but okay, I get it. The owner, with a seller note, with forgivable clauses, and mind you, this was a 70% seller note, so there was a lot of money riding on this. He got in his truck, drove to her place of business. I think she owned a liquor store. Got down and told her, hey, listen, you don't need to go anywhere. You've been with me forever. I'm still here. CJ is still here. He's a great guy. Nothing is changing. The staff is still here. He just hired somebody else. I mean, this thing is growing and strengthening. Where else are you going to go? He came back and basically said, hey, CJ, don't worry about her. She's staying on board. That is the prime example of how you can have a very strong client retention rate, is through these safeguards and implementing them. So we started off this conversation with you knowing that growth through acquisitions is the fastest way to grow. Nobody wants to grow one by one, take 10 years, shaking babies and kissing hands, shaking hands and kissing babies. But that nightmare that you have, I hope you can see now that there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you simply set it up correctly, you will be completely fine. I offer a full buy-side advisory suite that includes my own personal advisory, deal analysis, a community full of other people just like Brandon doing deals and acquiring firms and changing their lives. I get it. There's a worst case scenario, but don't let that snowball. As somebody that honestly, I struggle with anxiety a lot, and I honestly think there's a lot of us that do. You got to learn how to stop those snowballs before they become too big and get out of control. These 3 safeguards will keep you safe. These 3 safeguards will get you across the finish line and retain all the clients. So you know now that you can do this. Reach out to me. There's a link in the description below. Book a call with me. Let's talk about your unique situation and how my services can help you get from where you are now to adding another 2, 3, 4, 500 clients, 1,000 clients, simply by acquiring the right firm and setting it up the right way. There's a lot of people that fail at acquisitions, but with these 3 safeguards, with my buy-side advisory, that won't be you. Book a call with me, and remember, it's a cruel world, but we're better together. We'll see you later.